You think that
I don't have to answer questions from reporters. Don, the only reason I'm doing this interview is because you're on the X platform and you asked for it. Otherwise, I would not do this interview.
so?
Wow. Wow, Elon. Wow.
Warning, this episode will feature extremely brief depictions of drawn racial stereotypes of these are cartoons that were found on Twitter. They will briefly appear on screen if you are watching the video version.
Hello, and welcome back to Ruben Uncut. Today, the thing that's popping up in my mind is Elon Musk, because apparently Elon Musk had a terrible interview with Don Lemon. Now, I'll be real. I don't really follow Don Lemon. Don't know what he's all about. I know he was fired from CNN, I thought for being conservative, or was he too liberal during the takeover of Discovery, who are more conservative? I honestly don't know, because I don't watch CNN. But anyways, we're going to take a look at this interview because I hear that Don Lemon really went after him. And yes, I know most of the paint is chipped off my nails. So if that bothers you, don't look at my hands, bitch. All right. Take a gander at this interview because I don't want to preamble it too much because most people, because a lot of people stop during the preamble. Makes it hard to explain what a video is about, but let's go.
Welcome to the Don Lemon Show, everyone. We're still here.
Oh, by the way, I'm reacting to this. I have not seen it. Well, that's not true. I saw a little bit of Don Lemon's intro here. I probably should. I almost watched other people watch this, but I was like, no, you must react to it cold, Ruben. Which unfortunately gives me the disadvantage of not being able to steal better points from smarter people. I should say more well-informed people. Let's go.
In a minute, I'm going to bring you my conversation with Elon Musk, the one that everyone is talking about. But first, let me tell you a bit about the show. Contrary to what you might have heard, we weren't canceled by X. Yes, after months of begging me, wooing me to offer some exclusive content on his platform, Elon Musk decided to scrap the deal. But our plan is, and always has been, to release this show everywhere. On YouTube, on Spotify.
Don't know why the volume was originally at half there.
On iHeartRadio. Just about any place you stream content. Now for my conversation with Elon. As with all my interviews, no restrictions, no ground rules, nothing off limits or out of bounds. That is until the interview ended. So what went wrong? I don't know. But my hope is that you learned something about both Elon and me, two people who come from completely different vantage points on almost every single issue. And I challenge you, Elon, to watch the whole interview and tell the world why this isn't what you claim you want on X.
Thank you for inviting.
I just think it is important to note the part there where he said that Elon Musk begged him to do this. I feel that's going to be important.
Us here.
You're welcome.
Tesla headquarters. I'm surprised at how big it is. I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's about 3 times the size of the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And we built it in 16 months. It's the fastest construction project in the United States since World War II.
So,
is there any actual value to being bigger than the Pentagon? I honestly don't know if there is. I mean, maybe something.
I'm here, as you know, I'm on the platform because you say you're a free speech absolutist, right? And there are no conditions.
Yeah. Free speech is as much as possible within the bounds of the law.
Yeah. So the reason
That's a bitch answer, by the way. That's a bitch answer. That's a bitch answer. Because by saying within the bounds of the law, he's saying that the limitations on free speech aren't his. While at the same time being able to also be like, oh no, I think that hate speech like that is bad too. Or being like, oh no, calls for violence are bad. Depending on what situation is more valuable for him.
And I'm saying that is because there are no conditions on this interview. You said that, we'll speak to you for an hour. I don't like sound bites, so I welcome that. So let's get into it. So we're here in Austin. South by Southwest is going on. We're at the Tesla headquarters.
The camera just like zoomed in on his face a little bit more, and I don't know why it was funny to me that that happened.
You are in the process of moving SpaceX here, I understand?
No. SpaceX has a massive facility in South Texas where we build and launch Starship, and then we have in Bastrop near Austin, we are about to start production at a Starlink, a large Starlink factory for Starlink terminals. But but we're not shutting down any facilities in California.
Listen, we are here as part of a launch of a news interview.
Elon Musk is remarkably uncharismatic for having as many people ride his dick as he does. Like I don't just from hearing him talk about things, I don't immediately see it.
Show that is going to be on X.com. It's coming as a media industry, as you know, is going through a whole lot of changes.
Yeah.
X has also been affected by that. Where do you see X.com's role in the future of news and journalism, Elon?
Well, I think I see the X as it's already the #1 source of news in the world. So it is #1.
Oh dear God, I hope that is not true.
Yeah, the #1 way that people actually are informed about any kind of news, meaning real-time events, is on the X platform, formerly Twitter. There's nothing even close for real-time news. So
even he has to say, formerly Twitter.
So we also want to expand upon that, and we have done so with long-form content. So instead of just doing what used to be called tweets, you can now do long-form posts. You can post an entire essay. In fact, you can now post an entire book to the platform. You can do long-form video content, so you can do up to 4-hour video segments. We really want news in whatever form it is, or information, I should say, in whatever form it is, to be available on our platform, whether it's short, long, text, pictures, video, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that we do, long-form video, interview.
I just want to say, I'm tempted to make fun of him for the fact that his solution to Twitter is to make Twitter like every other social media platform. But, you know, in all honesty, that was probably inevitable. Just saying.
Interview shows, what have you.
Yeah.
You reached out over the summer and you said it would be great to have Maddow, Don Lemon, others on the left put on this platform. You receive full support. The digital town square is for all. What do you mean by that?
Well, I just mean that we want to make sure.
I don't consider any of those people super left. I can see it's going to be hard. I'm trying to not hit the pause button in the middle of the sentences, but it's actively harder than I thought it would be.
That there are a wide variety of viewpoints. That it's, we always have, for example, Tucker Carlson, who most people will view as being on the right.
Because he is, like, definitionally. Let's not pretend like left and right don't mean anything. You clearly believe that these people are on the left, Elon. Why can't you just say something straight out? This is actually like the opposite of Donald Trump, which is why he says things too confidently. And Elon is like, I mean, maybe Elon's just smarter with his words, but he's almost like playing it too safe with some of these, the way he phrases things.
And that's quite a prominent name on the right. We want to have prominent names on the left as well to provide different points of view. As well as centrists, just basically a wide range
To provide cover.
of viewpoints on the platform, so users can hear different opinions. They can hear, what's your point of view, what's Tucker's point of view, and and people can make their own decision about what they believe.
You didn't mean that I'm on the left? Did you think that?
I thought you were on the left, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, let's just say I don't know what the left is or the right is, frankly, these days, because things can be quite polarized. But my impression was that you're more likely to be described as on the left than the right.
See, like, I wish I knew more about Don Lemon right now, because Don Lemon's reaction is that Don Lemon does not actually implies that Don Lemon does not think of himself as a leftist. Now, to be fair, technically liberals are on the left, but only relatively to what we view as conservative now. But like most liberals actually don't think of themselves as quote unquote leftists, because our liberals are pretty much centrists in this country. Because the rest of the world has moved on from a lot of things that America's hung up on. And it's causing regression all over the globe because other countries defer to America sometimes. And so when they see America suddenly like regressing, they're like, oh, fascism is cool.
My sense is you're sort of center left. I don't know. You tell me.
Well, did you ever watch me on CNN, or did you watch?
I saw not. I saw segments.
Yeah.
But CNN is generally considered left.
First of all, CNN is not left. If you believe that, it's because you are very far right. CNN is centrist. Any leftist will view CNN as centrist. If you view CNN as being to the left, that is because you are to the right of CNN. CNN is very centrist. I hate to break that to you. CNN just has a hate boner for Trump because Trump publicly talks shit on them. And historically, that's what happens. If you talk shit on a media company as president, they will come for you, like with everything they have. Like that is what always happens. It's not actually weird that CNN had a hate boner for Trump. Just so you know, most of the media had a hate boner for Nixon because Nixon said the same shit about the media.
Left.
Yeah. Why do you say that?
Why do I say CNN is generally considered left? I think if you look at any sort of media survey of what is on the left or right, I think they would say, like, for example, Fox is on the right and CNN is on the left.
Yeah. So that's what is it?
Am I missing something here?
Okay.
What he's missing is he doesn't actually understand the left. Elon Musk doesn't actually understand the left. He is literally just perpetuating right-wing media concepts of what the left is, because the right is going to view anything to the left of it as leftist. But people who are leftist typically have a harsher criticism of capitalism and American foreign policy than liberals do. Because you see, that's the key difference between leftists and liberals, is that liberals ultimately believe in capitalism. The majority of how the government was functioning prior to Donald Trump was along what we call neoliberal lines, which to leftists feels very conservative. And to be fair, in America, we actually did call we call them neocons instead of neolibs, which is what they call them in Europe. But that's because this stuff's all pretty relative. And the fact of the matter is from the way Elon Musk is responding, I don't think Elon Musk actually understands politics, which doesn't actually surprise me. Like, a lot of business people don't. Like, and you can tell from the way they talk about things. But let's continue.
Are you missing something?
I
don't know. I think that when I read that, I said, like many of my critics or detractors, they never really watched me on CNN. They just saw the clips of me either on social media or maybe on Fox News or in conservative media, where it's sort of where I've become a character or a caricature of what I actually am, and it's taken out of context.
Sure. Well, how would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as someone who is, I am independent in my thinking, and I vote for people based on the issues and how I feel about it, not necessarily because of political leaning of some sort.
Well, I agree with that approach. I think that's...
So what he just said is, I'm a centrist. I'm a centrist, Mr. Musk, and you are out here calling me a leftist. So off to a great start. Turns out Elon Musk doesn't know what a leftist looks like.
It's generally how people should take things, which is, I mean, there's there are a whole sort of set of issues which are sort of somewhat arbitrarily bucketed into right or left. But I think
they're going to feel arbitrary to you because you don't actually have a political ethos, Musk. That's the problem. They're going to seem arbitrary to you because you don't actually see how the politics of different things line up.
Most citizens would think that they would agree with some things on the left, but not everything, or they agree on some things on the right, but not everything. So
yes, because people think on a spectrum.
That's what I think most people feel, I guess.
How much longer?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Elon Musk, you don't know a lot about politics or people. I mean, to be fair, what you just said about people in general, I think it is true on a technical level, but I don't think you really understand how that applies and interacts with politics. Because you are right. Everyone has different views, but you see, concepts like left and right are actually these miasmic things that are based on relative perspective. So what happens is that lots of individuals can have a wide range of varied opinions on political or moral or ethical or economic issues. But ultimately, they're going to lean into more one part of the zeitgeist than another based on how either those things come together or which ones are more important to them. And this goes for even the most hardcore leftist or right-wing person. If you actually force them to sit down and think about their various thoughts, there would be things that you would probably be able to agree with them on. It's just that some of the things you wouldn't agree on are so morally egregious to one side or the other that it's becoming a problem.
And maybe the answer is forever. How much longer are we going to have to call it the formerly known as Twitter? I mean, even Prince went back to Prince instead of, is it always going to be X?
It's definitely always going to be X.
I just love that was a question. And I love that he used the Prince reference because it's what I think about every single time.
So X is going through some changes. As I said, a lot of media companies are going through some changes. You're in charge of an incredible platform, Elon. How do you feel that's going?
I think it's going pretty well so far.
Elon, you've lost so much money, and you've lost real money and hypothetical money on this deal. Because that's a secret, everyone. A lot of money is not real. A lot of billionaires and rich people, they're dealing with hypothetical money, the money they're supposed to make on a deal. However, in regular life, we call this counting your eggs before they hatch. And it's bullshit that they use to justify all their shitty corporate behavior.
We're seeing record usage. We've added a tremendous amount of functionality. I mentioned that it used to be that you could only do.
I took it off my phone. I barely go on it anymore.
Short, text and maybe a picture or something like that, short video.
To be fair, since the Snyder Cut was released, I have no real reason to go on Twitter. It's not like anyone paid attention to me on that piece of shit platform anyways.
But now you can do long-form text, long-form video. We've added audio-video calling. So you can not just do text DMs, you can do audio-video calling. We've improved the algorithm, I think, significantly. And made the system faster and better, and that's reflected in the increased usage.
So let's talk about that.
Well, so just so we know, he has overstepped and didn't reference any of the technical issues that have publicly occurred with Twitter. So that's questionable.
Because you said you wanted all points of view, right? It's a digital town square for all.
Yeah.
It's the platform has kind of picked up where some conservative media has left off. That moving to the right, increasingly becoming part of a conservative dialogue, and sometimes even conspiracy theories, right? There was an article recently written about you saying that you, Donald Trump, and X were the most important people or places or whatever icons when it comes to the MAGA movement. Do you agree with that? How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, there are nonsense articles written all the time, and I certainly wouldn't agree with that.
Because Elon is never going to publicly associate with MAGA. He is going to fight for them very quietly all the time, promote their concepts all the time. But if you hadn't noticed, Elon wants you to think of him as a centrist. Elon doesn't want to be tainted as particularly left or right, even though that really does seem like he spends most of his time defending the right and shitting on the left. But to connect himself directly to the MAGA movement itself would be too far, even though he seems to agree with them on a lot.
That one I put in the nonsense category. So the objective fact of the matter, in my opinion.
Also, it doesn't really matter what he thinks. If that's from like polling data or anything, it's not really nonsense. Because here's the other thing, Elon, is that if you are perceived as being part of the MAGA movement, that won't change the fact that people consider you important or influential to the MAGA movement. That's not really a thing that you control the reality of. I mean, unless you started shitting on the MAGA movement, that might change it.
Was that old Twitter was fundamentally a tool of the far left, and that was really.
To point out, it has been made very clear he does not understand what the left actually is. He thought Don Lemon was a leftist.
I think a lot of it was due to being located in San Francisco, Berkeley, and so it wanted to essentially project the SF Berkeley political dogma worldwide.
You think it was far left?
Yes, I do.
I used to I actually got off the platform because I would get so much hate tweets when it was called in, so much hate tweets and just guff from right-wing conspiracy theorists being called everything from, fag to
sure. It's the internet,
everything.
that people will do.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Don. Don, I don't really know much about you, and I get some impressions that I probably wouldn't agree with your overall politics, but frankly, you're fucking nailing it right now. I'm gonna have to censor those slurs you just said. Is Don Lemon gay? Can Don Lemon say the F slur? I honestly don't know. I should have Googled Don Lemon.
I've been called every name times 1,000.
Yeah. Do you agree?
It's not a contest, Elon. That wasn't the point of his question. He's questioning your narrative that it was previously a tool of the left wing, because it wasn't.
Agree
that it's right now, and that even it's moved into sort of MAGA land, conspiracy theory?
I certainly don't think it's right.
It is. It is. Most of the people who have left were on the left. No wordplay intended.
The old school Twitter suspended and suppressed accounts that you'd call on the right 10 times more than they did accounts on the left. And even when they did suspend.
This is not what data that has been released indicates. What indicates it, what I have read is from the data that has been released, is that Twitter, or I should say leaked, Twitter was actually giving free passes to conservatives because conservatives would offend at such a higher level than people on the left. They did still punish some people on the right, but they were in fact giving lots of free passes to people on the right to avoid the public accusations of being called leftist, which is hilarious. Which actually, this is the big problem, is that people on the right will literally call anything that disagrees with them leftist, or to the left, or liberal, or whatever. The second you disagree with them, you're part of some kind of conspiracy where it's you, the left, who are the real problem. You see, and let's see what happens next.
An account on the left. It was because of arguments between two people on the left. The political donations of old Twitter were 99% Democrat. Does that sound left-wing or right-wing to you?
The Democrats are not inherently left. This is the problem. If you associate Democrats with the left, it becomes hard for me to take you seriously, because there is literally only a minority of Democrats who can be referred to as leftist. The majority of Democrats are either basically conservative or liberal. There are very few genuine leftists in the Democratic Party. AOC, possible exception. Bernie Sanders, other possible exception, although I think, isn't he technically still an independent? I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
The Twitter donations?
Yes. You know, when they look at donations from a company, if a company donates literally 99% of all donations are to Democrats, does that strike you as a left-leaning or a right-leaning
Oh, you
company?
mean the company donated. I understand what you're saying.
What I'm trying to tell you is that Twitter employees, people at Twitter, their political donations were 99%, literally 99%, to Democrats.
Oh, that's a bad metric. Okay, so here's another thing. You can't judge a company's policy based off the employees' behaviors or beliefs. That may sound weird to some people, but it's actually true. What we find is that often conservatives are in positions of management and middle management, while typically the people that work under them will typically lean towards the left, or at least Democratic. Second of all, his argument is flawed because, once again, the Democrats are not inherently leftist. They are liberal at best. And also, we have the word blue dog Democrat, to let you know when they're also conservative. It's just, this is not actually a good metric to measure this from. If he's talking about from the employees of Twitter, like as individuals, we can't actually measure Twitter entirely on that. I'm going to have to Google who Elon Musk donates to now, if it's public at all. Also, where do you get this data? That shit's normally private.
That's obviously an extremely left-leaning group.
My question to leading into this was about MAGA.
He still can't get into his head that Democrats are not inherently left. They are relatively left compared to his position. See, that's the reality.
And speaking of MAGA, you recently met with Donald Trump in Florida. What did you guys talk about?
I was at a dinner. I was at a breakfast at a friend's place, and Donald Trump came by. That's it.
So you didn't.
You're being very defensive about this, Elon. So this is very interesting that Elon is I don't think Elon understands left and right. And all he knows is that he does not want to be associated with being too far one way or the other. So it's interesting how he is downplaying meeting Trump.
Go there to meet him?
No, I went to a friend of mine's house and it said Donald Trump's coming by for breakfast. Is that, just so you know, like, okay, fine.
What did you discuss?
But Elon, that still means that you have a close personal friend that you would have breakfast with that Donald Trump could just like visit. You're making like.
I don't. Let's just say he did most of the talking.
What did he say?
The normal things he says. There was nothing particularly groundbreaking or new, but
Elon Musk knows how to not be a leak.
He, President Trump likes to talk, and so he talked. I don't recall him saying anything that he hasn't said publicly, and that was it. It was just a breakfast.
Did he ask you for money?
He didn't.
Did he ask you for a donation?
No.
He didn't.
No.
You said you're not going to donate to any candidate.
That's correct.
Why not?
I think while I'll voice my opinion, I think I don't want to put a thumb on the scale monetarily that is, significant.
Are you going to loan him money to help pay his bills?
No.
Not at all. Pay his legal bills.
I'm not paying his legal bills in any way, shape, or form.
And he did not ask you for money.
And he did not ask me for money.
Are you going to? So you're not going to endorse a candidate?
I may, in the final stretch, endorse a candidate, but I don't know yet. I want to make a considered decision.
By the way, I just want to remind everyone, with the existence of dark money pacts, there's actually no way to prove that Elon doesn't give money to a candidate. Just something to think about. I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying he is. That would be conspiracy theory type speculation.
Before the election, and if I do decide to endorse a candidate, then I will explain exactly why.
Are you leaning towards anyone?
No.
You're not leaning towards anyone. Because you've been...
Let me say I'm leaning away from Biden.
You're leaning...
I've made no secret of that.
You're a shifty one, Mr. Musk. Very shifty.
Are you concerned about losing your security clearance if Biden is reelected? Does that have anything to do with it?
No.
You are leaning away from Biden, but you're not going to endorse anyone. It seems like an endorsement of President Trump because there are only two people who are running now. Nikki Haley is out.
I mean, a lot could happen between now and the election, so we'll see who, in the final analysis, are the choices for president. And at that point, I may or may not endorse one of the candidates. If I do, I will provide a very detailed explanation of why I am endorsing one or the other.
Okay. So first of all, what do you think's gonna happen, Musk? What do you think's gonna happen between now and then? You know what I'm saying? Like, you either it's pretty is he saying Trump might go to jail? Is he saying that someone might assassinate Biden? Is he just hoping that Biden will drop dead from old age? Is Trump gonna have what do you think's gonna happen, Elon, between now and then? That we would have a third completely different candidate running in one of these parties. Also, have you noticed that Elon's trying real hard not to say anything? He's saying a lot of words that all account down to not actually a lot of information or a lot of very filtered information. He said the things that he always says. It's so clear that Elon is not ready to be transparent about any of this.
At that point, might you contribute or donate?
I think it's unlikely.
So you've been posting up a storm, as you always do in the past couple weeks, about the redesign of the Tesla Roadster coming at the end of this year. Are there any kind of updates that you can talk about to
It is a fancier looking car.
expect from your flagship EV? I mean, Tesla stock is down in the last 6 months. What's next for the company?
You know, the stocks go up and down, but what really matters is, are we making and delivering great products? The Tesla products are outstanding. Last year, the Tesla Model Y was the best-selling car of any kind in the world. So it was about 1.2 million units. It was the best-selling car despite being...
Does that include the situation with pre-orders? Or is he counting pre-orders there, or is that actually made and shipped? I don't know.
I think around 50% more expensive than the next best-selling vehicle of any kind, not just electric. So I think that's a testament to the incredible work of the Tesla team.
Yeah.
And we launched the Cybertruck. Obviously, that's being very well received. We have, I think, over 1 million orders for the Cybertruck.
Rumors are it's a death trap.
It's a really special product. That is, I think the Cybertruck is one of those products that comes along really once in several years, maybe once a decade.
The Cybertrucks are also behind schedule because of the weird shape it's built as.
A Cybertruck is a once a decade product. It is so special, and I think it's our best product.
But everyone improves over time. I mean, Apple, I thought my phone was here, but Apple, the phone got better over time. I'm sure your cars will get better over time. You have been tweeting about the updates in the Roadsters. There's something that we should expect?
Sure. You did mention the Roadster. So, look, I don't want to give away much more than what I've said publicly, except that the Roadster will be a collaboration between SpaceX and Tesla. So, you can expect some rockety stuff there.
A flying car?
Maybe.
That is the least careful thing that Elon Musk has said the entire interview. Will it be a flying car? Maybe. First of all, not a commitment either. But like, Elon, when it comes to flying cars, a maybe is enough to disappoint everyone if it doesn't fly. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? That car better fucking fly.
It's not out of the question.
Go on.
No, I gotta reserve the cool stuff for the when we actually unveil it. But it's gonna be really cool. It's gonna have some rocket technology in it. I think the only way to do something that's cooler than the Cybertruck is to combine the SpaceX and Tesla technology to create something that's not even really a car.
Then what would it be?
Something.
Oh, Don is roasting you, man. Great question, Don.
That's never existed before.
I'm getting Jetsons vibes.
Totally Jetsons vibes. The audience may not be aware, like, some things that have.
Is it gonna fly or not, Elon? Because now it sounds like it's gonna fly.
I've said publicly is that it'll do 0 to 60 in under 1 second. So that's by far.
Is that something we actually need? Do we need a car that gets from 0 to 60 that fast? I mean, like, that seems more like a hazard, if I'm being completely honest.
Far faster than any, sports car that exists.
Oh, it's a sports car. So okay, I can see why you would want that for racing. But, like, that's a feature that's almost completely useless to the average person driving around.
And that's not even the most exciting thing about it.
It also, you steal my crush with that shit.
Does it have wings?
No, it does not have.
That's a fair question, though, the way this conversation's been going.
Big wings, because big wings would be unwieldy on the road.
Does it have propellers?
It does not have propellers.
Okay, wait, did you just say it has small wings? What the fuck is happening?
Okay, it has wheels.
It does have wheels.
Okay.
Roadster.
In fairness, planes also have wheels.
20 questions.
Does it have a steering wheel?
Not exactly.
What is it?
It'll have a drive-by-wire yoke, essentially, like kind of like the way aircraft or modern jets are controlled.
And do you think it's a way?
Okay, this motherfucker better fly. Or this, Elon, if this is your attempt at, like, subtle, dry humor, shut the fuck up. Because you know what? People are not ready to laugh at the lack of flying cars. If you start promising flying cars, it's on. Okay? You're not funny enough to pull this off.
The future that everyone will follow your lead on this?
I don't think anyone will ever make anything like the Roadster that we're gonna make.
Let's talk now.
Okay, so just so everyone knows, that's actually stupid. To say that you don't think like, all great things are influential. Okay? If the Roadster is a success, it will influence other designs and other creations. So to say that no one, like, what's he gonna do? Just patent it so hardcore that no one else can? No, man, if it makes money, people are gonna rip you off. Don't be like, because what you're describing would be a sign of failure in the marketplace.
About SpaceX, Tesla, you got a lot of lawsuits, you've got X.com, you got a lot going on. How do you relax?
Well,
Ketamine.
I relax. I spend time with my kids, my friends, and
Why are there no pictures of you with your children?
being somewhat of a nerd technologist, I like playing video games. So I'll play video games with
Wait, I thought you were a workaholic who never took time to themselves.
friends online.
Which one?
Lately, I've been playing Diablo, um, and but I've played almost all the games.
He won't shoot cops, but he will play. He will play Diablo. I'm referring to his comments about GTA 6, in case people were wondering. Apparently, it bothered Elon Musk so much to shoot the police in GTA 5 that he just couldn't play it. Elon, can you virtue signal any harder? Jesus.
Games over the years. A long time ago, I was like semi-pro good at Quake. This is really dating me because we're talking about like 125 years ago.
I don't know video games. I just know that my great nephew loves Fortnite and some other stuff. He's always with the headphones and doing the thing. So that helps you relax, right? So
Quake fucking rules, by the way. Although, and I'm probably in the minority on here, but it's also mainly probably because I grew up with Quake 64, Quake 2 64 that I feel this way, but I like Quake 2 better.
And the nice thing is if you've got friends in different cities and they're playing the same game, you can both go online at the same time and play the game together, even though you're in different cities.
Listen, I'm not asking you anything that anyone else hasn't asked you.
If I have any friends who haven't hung out with me in a long time, might live in other cities where I can't visit you, you guys play any video games? I know I'm doing this with a slightly funny, exaggerated, sad voice, but I'm 100% serious. I have a Switch and an Xbox One. I know that's the outdated one now, but I can play a lot of games with the cloud.
About your controversial stuff that you tweet. You post a lot of controversial stuff. Is that considered blowing off steam?
Well, I guess I do enjoy using the platform. I mean, I do call the
Yeah, you've been tweeting nonstop for years.
X platform the PvP or player versus player platform. So in video games, there's player versus like environment, where
Isn't it player versus enemy? Maybe it is environment. I don't know. I play games by myself.
you're not playing against other people, and then there's PvP, which is like hardcore. You're actually playing against other people, and
But that's blowing off.
Except Quake 2. I sometimes play Quake 2 online. Shooting bitches with a rail gun.
Steam for you.
yeah,
Yes.
it is to some degree, not always. I mean, obviously, I use it for to post jokes, to post,
Elon, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. As an autistic man, but also as someone who does comedy. You are not funny. Please stop. You don't understand comedy. Just stop.
sometimes trivia, sometimes things that are of great importance.
So you do a lot of it at night, like late at night. So when you're doing this, are you sober when you do it?
Almost
Are
always,
you
yes.
under the influence of anything?
No, I don't drink. I don't really. No.
So you got no drink, no smoke, no nothing. I mean, you smoke pot with Rogan.
I had one puff.
Yeah.
I think anyone who smokes pot can tell I don't know how to smoke pot.
But you've admitted that
Oh, now I need to go watch that again to see if he looks like he knows how to smoke pot. Ask him about the ketamine, Don.
you have a ketamine prescription.
Yeah.
What's that for?
Well, I mean, it's pretty private to ask somebody about a medical prescription.
Typically, ketamine is for depression. A thing that Elon Musk kind of acts like doesn't exist. So that's interesting. I am not aware of what else you would take ketamine for. That is its major prescribed benefit. Well, that, and we give it to children for surgery. Are you taking it For surgeries?
You know. But I think it's something I'd say like, there are times when I have,
Side note, I would not judge Elon Musk for having depression. I would judge him for hiding the fact that he has depression.
sort of, I don't know, at like a negative chemical state in my brain, like depression, I guess, is or like.
Good for you. Good for you. It seems like it's very hard for you to say that directly. Most people would just be like, yeah, well, I do suffer from some depression.
Depression that's not linked to any negative views, and then ketamine is
Oh my God, it's like he wants to pretend like he's not describing clinical depression.
helpful for getting one out of a negative frame of mind.
Well, listen,
So in fact, I generally, obviously I'm not a doctor, but I would say if someone has depression issues, they should consider talking to their doctor about ketamine instead of SSRIs.
listen, I think that
I just want to say, I do think that ketamine is something worthwhile for people to try on depression. I will, however, also say that I have known people who abuse ketamine. And ketamine, when you abuse it, makes you pretty wacky. Okay? So, and it looks like it's pretty addictive. I have taken ketamine recreational just once. Did not care for it. First of all, anything you snort is gross. I don't do needles. Needles freak me out. Although, that's probably how they give it to you medically. But I do know people who've done ketamine, and it seems to be very helpful. Ketamine is not a permanent cure, but it, like Elon just said, it can snap you out of that. Now, I'm going to give Elon some credit. He is talking about having depression. He sounds like he does not understand that he's talking about depression. For some reason, but he is. And you know what? I hope that the ketamine helps, Elon. I'm sorry that your depression probably makes you make a lot of other terrible choices, like buying Twitter. But I'm proud of you for admitting it here, that you have depression and that you are not afraid to take a drug for it. And actually, because you are someone who struggles with depression and have probably tried different things, I'm not even going to shit on you for shitting on SSRIs. I currently take an SSRI, and while I understand why that's not for everybody, I take a very small amount, and you know what? It keeps me pretty level. I still experience all my regular emotions. I won't lie. I don't know if I'll be on it forever. There are reasons why I might want to stop taking it. Mainly because it raises your tolerance to magic mushrooms really high.
ketamine and drug therapy is increasingly becoming more in the mainstream.
Yeah.
Do you think you're doing it under a doctor's care, right?
Yeah. Literally a prescription from an actual, a real doctor, not like,
Yeah.
Hold on. What kind of prescription though? Like, do you take it at home, which would be not normal, or do you have to go to a supervised doctor thing? Or, well, hold on, you're rich, so you probably have you probably have someone come to your house and administer it. That would be my guess. I will say now that I have no evidence that he isn't abusing ketamine, but I now will kind of be viewing anyone who jokes about him abusing ketamine a little negatively. I mean, he could be lying, but just saying. Like, so far, the way that ketamine has come up in this conversation, this is the most respectable part of the interview so far. Everything else has been an absolute shit show.
Yeah, but do you feel like you ever abuse it?
I don't think so. If you
hard thing for an addict to actually measure. I will say that if he was abusing it, he might be behaving a little more wacky than he has been. Unless that's why he always talks that way.
If you use too much ketamine, you can't really get work done. So I have a lot of work.
That's true. That's true. If you're doing too much ketamine, you are not very functional on ketamine. Like it is not a very functional drug. Like there's a reason the main people who take ketamine are taking it at raves. Although I feel like there have been allegations about him actually doing lots of partying.
So,
but I am not making those allegations myself. Just want to point that out there. For all I know, they are rumor.
I'm typically putting in 16-hour days. That's normal for me, and it's rare for me to even take off a weekend day. So I don't really.
So the answer is he's not actually playing that much video games.
Have a situation where I can be not mentally acute for an extended period of time. Like I can't really get what.
Wait a minute. So either he doesn't sleep a lot, or he basically works and then sleeps. If he's working 16-hour days. Because another 8, and that's 24.
Wasted because I can't get my work done.
That's fucked up. I can't even imagine someone putting themselves through that. But Ruben, don't you want to be a billionaire? Not if that's what being a billionaire looks like. Fuck that. 16. Listen, I used to work 12-hour work days. And I've worked a few times in my life I've worked 10-hour work days. And 16-hour work days, fuck that. I know that's only 4 to 6 more hours than I was working at those other really ridiculous hours, but seriously, fuck that.
So how often do you take it?
Well, it'd be it's a small amount once every other week or something like that.
But there's not on the bottle where it says take this dose this many times a week or whatever. If it's under a doctor's
dose, and there are several weeks will go by where I don't use it.
You don't use it.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think what I find ketamine is if you literally a chemical state in your brain that you can't just think yourself out of, then
yes, what. You know what? Actually, maybe this is good. Maybe this is good for people to hear this, because the thing you need to understand is that the thing that he is describing, that he is using a bunch, is clinical depression. You cannot think your way out of clinical depression. Clinical depression does not care how smart you are. Although it is minorly annoying.
Ketamine is helpful for getting you out of a depressive.
How indirect he is, is annoying. But maybe it's good that he's using the third grader's version of explaining it.
Of mind state.
You suffer from depression, or you have a depressive mind state? And I asked you as someone who has suffered from depression.
I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that I have a case of extended depression. It's just once in a while I get into a negative sort of chemical mind state. Once in a while, it's not a.
So I think I understand what's happening. I think that Elon thinks that if he admits to being depressed frequently, that it will somehow undermine him, possibly his business acumen or his masculinity or something. Whatever it is, and I kind of get it. He is a public figure. People are very judgmental of mental illness and public figures. Look at how we treated Britney Spears for years. It really is rough. So I actually kind of feel for you on this one, Elon. I'm sorry that you can't be open with yourself and the world about your mental health. I get it, and it's sad, and maybe that's why you're a dick to other people who are suffering. I don't know.
Not a common thing. But once in a while, this happens.
Where do you think that comes from?
I think it's just genetic, basically.
You think it's just genetic history?
I think so.
Okay, well, Yeah, he's describing generational depression. Well, at least that's the way he's putting it. He's not capable of being direct with himself or Don about what he's talking about, but he is talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, some people are just wired to be happy all the time. Some are unfortunately wired.
I don't actually think that's true, but that is the kind of thing that people who are depressed think.
To be sad a lot of the time. And in my case, I'm generally pretty positive and optimistic. But once in a while,
it is possible to be a very positive, optimistic person and still have horrific depression. Because real depression, like clinical depression, is not about your attitude. And that's a thing that's hard for some people to understand. Having a good attitude will help you survive having clinical depression, but it won't cure it. So actually, I'm glad Elon's talking about this.
I don't know what happens. There's some, like I said, I think just chemical tides in your brain once in a while. It's like a brain storm.
Yeah. Do you ever worry that this may get in the way of your government contracts and clearances, and also and Wall Street as well?
Well, from a standpoint of Wall Street, what matters is execution.
I would say that, that's basically just what I was thinking. And actually it is a concern because people can be ableist. And frankly, it would not be hard for someone to weaponize his mental health against him, especially when he makes insane decisions that cost his companies billions of dollars, like buying Twitter and wrecking its value. It's still pretty valuable, let's be honest. But it's not even worth half of what he paid for it. It's probably a good thing he didn't borrow too much money from the Saudis to make it. By the way, the Saudis invested like $300,000 in his takeover of Twitter. Just so you're aware. It's actually a very small amount of it, but it's interesting where that money's coming from.
Now, are you building value for investors? Tesla is worth about as much as the rest of the car industry combined, from nothing. So that's pretty good.
I don't think that that's maintainable though. Because the thing is the more Teslas he sells, the more he actually expands the infrastructure in the marketplace for electric vehicles. And now all car companies are moving towards making hybrids and electric vehicles. Eventually, he's going to start to lose market share of that just because of the natural evolution of the market. And I don't think they are not doing well enough to establish a true monopoly yet.
As I mentioned, we had the best-selling car on Earth last year. So from an investor standpoint, if there is something I'm taking, I should keep taking it.
Have you talk about your ketamine use and depression? Have you also have said?
Actually, yes.
And the reason I should say the reason I mentioned
provided the ketamine thing's legitimate and not him just being an addict. It would explain why he looks fucking tired. Actually, working 16 hours a day. It would explain why he looks fucking tired all the time. My God.
The ketamine prescription on the X platform was because I thought maybe this is something that could help other people. That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah. Can we talk about the great replacement theory now? Some of the things that you post, the great replacement theory. You claim that Democrats, President Biden's immigration plan to open up the border. You said
about to get juicy.
That the president is getting, and Democrats are doing it to get more votes. But undocumented immigrants cannot vote in federal elections, so how is that possible?
Right. Well, you're conflating two things. One is great replacement theory. The other is, which I don't subscribe to that. I'm simply saying that there is an incentive here. If legal immigrants, which I think have a very strong bias to at least everything I've read, it's very strong bias to vote Democrat.
However, in fairness, Elon, to everything that you've read, it doesn't sound like you're really getting a very full picture of the political spectrum.
The more that come into the country, the more they're likely to vote in that direction. But it is, in my view, a simple incentive to increase voters, Democrat voters. And yeah, so the question is like how? So there's a few ways that this works. One is that when the census is done, the census is based on all people in an area, whether they are citizens or not. So if there are a concentration of people who came here illegally in a particular state or in a particular state, that state will actually then get an increased number of House seats. So
but that assumes that that just having more seats will lead to more Democrats. Okay, it won't necessarily guarantee that there are more Democratic seats.
I want to add a real quick edit here because I actually looked into the census thing some more, and it's one of those things where like someone has taken like something that's kind of true and blown it up dramatically out of proportion. Because it turns out with the current census data, if we were to eliminate all the illegal immigrants from our population count in the census, only 3 states would lose any seats because the population change would not be significant. And those states are Texas, who would lose 1 seat, Florida, who would lose 1 seat, and California, who would lose 1 seat. So what this statistically means, and this is interesting, is that red states actually are currently benefiting from this more than blue states because there are 2 red states with extra seats as opposed to 1 blue state. And all 3 of these are some of the most populous states in the country. So that's interesting. California would go from 52 seats to 51. Florida would go from 29 to 28. And Texas would go from 39 to 38. The more you learn.
Especially if the people who caused that district to be created are mostly illegal and can't vote. So there's a few glaring problems in this concept.
The House seat apportionment is proportionate to the number of people, not the number of citizens. So the
I don't know if that's accurate. And I don't know if census is. I'm gonna have to look at it. I'm gonna look into some of this stuff.
The illegals overwhelmingly go to places like California and New York, and if you just look at the math, if you look at the apportionment with and without illegals, I believe California would lose. I believe the blue state, there would be a net loss of blue states of approximately 20 seats in the House. This also applies to the electoral college.
Don looks skeptical. I myself would like to see these numbers. There's so many variables involved. Like there's so many empty variables involved here. Like how can you be so certain of these things?
College. So you say like, well, this also applies to electing the president, because the electoral votes are also done by apportionment the same way that House seats are done.
But the reason, Elon, the Electoral College is in place is to balance that, is so that doesn't happen. So what you're saying about it is the exact opposite of the reason why the Electoral College is there. The Electoral College at this point, in our history, gives people who are in smaller states and red states much more of an influence over our elections than people who are in blue states, and the majority of the people in this country. That's what the Electoral College does. It actually does.
You got him. You got him. Got him, Don. Good job. Elon literally does not understand politics. This is embarrassing.
The exact opposite of what you're saying. It protects people who are in smaller states and protects people who are in red states.
Well,
the red states, because they tend to be smaller and less populous.
I think that statement is what you said is true, but what I said is also true, which is
Not how things work.
that if, as is the case, a disproportionate number of legal immigrants go to blue states, they amplify the effect of a blue state vote. And the math, as I
If they're not voting, how does that help?
understand it, you can research this obviously very easily on there. It's pretty straightforward to research this.
So the thing is, though, is that a lot of legal immigrants who would not be voting would be creating essentially districts in areas that are probably poor and rural, and which those districts will probably go red. Now, to be fair, I'm just speculating. I'm not an expert on this. The thing is, I don't think Elon Musk is either.
This, but my understanding is that there would be that the Democrats would lose approximately 20 seats in the House if illegals were not counted in the census, and that's also 20 less electoral votes.
So, like, there's a lot of. I don't trust that. I'm gonna have to look that up. That's a thing I'm gonna have to look up. I'm gonna have to try and remember to look that up because that's a thing that I'm hearing it and I'm like, how are they measuring that?
Votes for president. So the illegals absolutely do affect the who controls the House and who controls the presidency. It does not affect the Senate.
Yeah. In blue states, you're talking about. I
Yes.
don't believe that your information on that is right. So listen, let's talk more about the Great Replacement, because the first time that you posted on X about this Jewish conspiracy, you ended up
I
apologizing.
didn't call it a conspiracy. I just said that there's a simple matter of incentives. You don't need a conspiracy when you have basic incentives. In my view, there's a basic incentive that is fundamental that for the Democrat Party to foster and usher in a large number of illegals. Yeah. And you don't need a conspiracy in that case because you have a very basic incentive.
No, that's still a conspiracy, though. And here's the reason why. Is because so what are you, Elon, what are you saying? Are you implying that they're doing it by accident? Is that the implication? Because if you think they're doing it by accident, then it should be pretty easy to correct and figure out a way to work around it. But if they're not doing it by accident, that's what would make it difficult.
You could say I'm wrong about that incentive, but that's my view.
Are you saying are you implying that they are incentivized to behave unethically? Except you won't use the word unethically because you're also saying that you believe in these because you view incentives as good, basically?
I'm not buying into. I didn't buying some great replacement theory. I'm simply saying there appears to be a very clear incentive for Democrats to maximize the number of illegals because it helps them win elections.
I'm talking about the Great Replacement theory is also part of a Jewish conspiracy theory. And
that's it, Don. Bring him back to it.
When you did the tweet, or you responded to the tweet about that, you ended up apologizing, and which I think is, it's good that you ended up apologizing. You went to Auschwitz with Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
Right? So you said you learned your lesson. What did you learn?
I said I learned my lesson.
You said you learned your lesson when you apologized, and you said you went to Auschwitz. You saw what.
No, I was already aware of these things, and the nature of my comment that really inflamed people. What I was trying to say, and I did very quickly clarify. This is what I'm saying: is that a number of prominent Jewish philanthropists fund groups that they should really take a closer look at funding, because some of the groups they fund, I think, are anti-Semitic.
Yeah. Do you understand the connection between the two? There's a connection between, you said Democrats, the Great Replacement theory, but when it comes to the actual Great Replacement theory, originally it was started about Jewish people, as you said, flooding in the country, and then now people are using it for Democrats, saying the same thing about Democrats, flooding.
In my view, it's a simple matter of incentives.
Yeah.
I actually don't see an incentive.
Okay, so Elon, the problem with this moment is that you were either playing stupid or you are stupid.
For Jewish people to want to get legal immigration, I don't think there is such an incentive.
The Great Replacement theory is a neo-Nazi trope. It's in the neo-Nazi manifesto. It's in the Turner Diaries. It's referenced by the Buffalo mass shooter in his manifesto, where 10 people, black people, were murdered in Buffalo. There's the actual title of the Christchurch shooters manifesto. 51 people in the Muslim mosque were murdered. 23 people murdered in El Paso by a shooter who used the same language that you use in that manifesto when you say Hispanic invasion. Is that not?
I didn't say an Hispanic invasion.
You quoted a tweet that called it a Hispanic invasion.
If I quote something, it doesn't mean I agree with everything in it. It's just something that I think this is something worth people should consider.
Why would you quote something that you didn't believe in?
Because anything I quote is going to have a whole range of statements. Doesn't mean I agree with everything in it.
Do you think,
Elon, I haven't seen this specific quote, but I just want to make sure you're aware, Elon, that typically, if you quote tweet something you don't agree with, you will quote tweet with it the context of not agreeing with it, because a sane person doesn't want to be misrepresented, and so a sane person will make it clear to their followers which things they are tweeting because they agree with them and which things they're tweeting because they don't agree with them. Because that's how you communicate like a real human being. I'm sorry you were born in this robot body.
I think if you moderated yourself more, if there was better content moderation on the platform, that you wouldn't have to answer these questions from reporters about the great replacement theory as it relates to
I don't have to
Democrats,
answer these questions.
the great replacement theory as it relates to Jewish people. Do you?
Elon, that is a terrible point to try and catch on. I don't have to answer these questions. Elon, he means that he's asking these questions, and he wouldn't be asking these questions, and you wouldn't have to deal with it if you had better moderation.
You think that?
I don't have to answer questions from reporters. Don, the only reason I'm doing this interview is because you're on the X platform and you asked for it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I would not do this interview.
So,
wow, Elon, wow. You're just gonna? Are you gonna at some point? Are you just gonna be like, I'm taking my toys and going home? We're never playing again, Don. I'm gonna tell my mom, and you won't get to come to my birthday party. Wow, Elon, you fucking child.
So you don't think do you think that you wouldn't get in trouble or you wouldn't be criticized for these things?
I'm criticized constantly. I could care less.
That's not so. Like, Elon, you understand that there's a certain amount of criticism that a person should be aware of. I mean, like, honestly, the world's full of haters. I know I have a YouTube comment section, but like, you do need some level of criticism in your life to be like functional and not an asshole.
You don't care?
No, I don't.
Why
care.
not?
I don't think people should care what the media thinks about them.
Okay, well that's kind of a problem, because the media is actually, that's what allows the media to be a check and balance on the power of the government and corporations, which is actually the real value of media, is its ability to check the more powerful than us and keep them from going crazy and doing weird shit. So that's deeply problematic right there.
They're terrible judges of character.
Even someone.
The media is not really about judging here to judge our character. That's like a statement that's simultaneously true but also stupid.
Who has one of the biggest social media and biggest information platforms in the world? You don't care? You don't think that you have any X.com or you have any responsibility to the truth or moderating the platform?
You're conflating the truth with the media, and I think the media is not truthful.
Well, not just the media. I mean, just the truth in general.
I care about the truth very much. That's why we have, for example, community notes on the...
Elon, you're not making a great argument for that, though. You, through this interview, have demonstrated that you don't really know a lot about how politics works, and you have demonstrated that you are either playing dumb on politics, or you literally don't know anything about politics, and it's like watching like a yellow belt challenge a sensei in a fight, because it's all relative, man.
The X system, where in order for a community note to surface and provide corrective information about what somebody posts, and my posts are equally subject to this. I've been community noted many times. In order for a community note to surface, people who have historically disagreed must agree in order for a community node to surface. And all of the code for community nodes is open source. All of the data is open source, so you can completely recreate it from scratch. The way to build trust is transparency.
I have noticed community notes. I think that
Elon, that is a wild statement about transparency, considering how hard you have tried to not commit to almost anything in this interview.
you are right about that, and I do think community notes are helpful. I think any type of content moderation, I do think that's helpful. You recently called content moderation, though, a digital chastity belt. Do you think that, you believe that X and you have some responsibility to moderate hate speech on the platform?
I think we have a responsibility to adhere to the law, and we have a responsibility to be transparent about when things are
This way, when he censors something, he'd be like, it wasn't me, it was the law.
shown, why they're shown. That's why we open source our algorithm. I think once you start going beyond the law, now you're putting it
They probably open sourced their algorithm for free labor.
on the scale. And we don't want to put out that on the scale.
It doesn't concern you that hate speech has gone, research shows that it's gone up on the platform since you took over? That's not concerning to you?
I believe that is false. In fact, the research that I've seen says it went down.
What research did you see, Elon? What research did you see? Please give us citation. I've seen the thing Don Lemon's talking about. What are you talking about?
The study from the Institute of Strategic Dialogue found that anti-Semitic tweets doubled from June 22 to February 2023. One study reported that as many as 86% of the posts reported for hateful content remained up after being reported. Hate speech on the platform is up.
So what they will typically do is they will count the number of posts, but not count the number of views. So what matters is, was that post given high visibility, or what did like one person see it?
That's not real moderation, man. That's not real moderation.
And if you look at the number of views of how many times was hate content viewed on our platform, it is down substantially.
Yeah. Well, that's not what the study shows. And you said you like transparency. I'm going to show you this, and
Don, you can get a study that will tell you whatever you want.
But
that is the classic line of someone who can't back up their shit. Okay? Is it hypothetically possible to find a study that tells you whatever you want? I mean, hypothetically. But it's also not technically factually true. There are lots of things where there aren't contradicting studies.
These are just a handful of extremely, if you look at those anti-Semitic and racist tropes and tweets, and as of this morning, they're still on X. And from your own content policy, these posts should have been deleted. So why haven't they been deleted? Why are they still there? Did you?
We delete things if they are illegal.
But these have been up there for a while.
Are they illegal?
No, they're not illegal, but they're hateful, and they can lead to violence. As I just read to you, the shooters, in all of these mass shootings,
just so everyone knows, those cartoons that they found on Twitter were pretty fucking racist. They were bad. They were real bad. I might have to add some kind of warning message to this video. That's how bad those cartoons were.
Attributed social media to radicalizing.
So Don, you love censorship, is what you're saying?
No, I don't love censorship.
It's not what he said. That is a wild leap.
Then why are you asking?
I believe in moderation, but I don't believe in
censorship. Moderation is a propaganda word for censorship.
But don't you think free speech is one thing, right? Or not,
Look, if something's illegal, we're going to take it down. If it's not illegal, then we're putting our thumb on the scale and we're being censors.
You're putting your thumb on the scale for moderating hate speech? I mean, you don't put out...
See, this is the thing, is that what is the ethical value of racist cartoons? And the problem is that there is no ethical value to racist cartoons. There's just no ethical value to it. So that's the problem that he's going to run into, because here's the thing. Racist cartoons don't have an ethical value. They are trash. They don't really support or give real information. They reinforce negative stereotypes and messaging. And like that's ultimately the thing, is that any type of racist cartoon is ultimately going to be slanted. And what I mean by it's going to be slanted is that it is already an argument that is not operating in good faith. Like when you see a racist cartoon, it's automatically like, whoa, that's fucking racist. That's terrible. It's clear what it's trying to do and say to me. But if you write an essay on like race realism or genetics, you can make wild arguments that don't immediately seem racist. And you could even say in those, and maybe you could even argue that those concepts can be debated. But a racist cartoon? Nah, man. There's no debate here. A racist cartoon is a bad faith interpretation of another race. That's wild that you would try to defend the ethics of that as free speech. And by the way, he's right. Those cartoons are not legal. I mean, those cartoons are not illegal. People make them. But like the fact that you would want them on your commercial website that is paid for by commercials is a deeply questionably stupid take also. Like you're willing to die on a hill for racist cartoons.
About child pornography, that's not.
It's illegal.
Some people would say that's considered censorship. I'm just saying,
No, I literally, Don, I literally said, if something is legal.
The point, Elon, is that your stance has no ethics. Technically, in free speech absolutism, it doesn't matter what's legal or illegal. You claim to be a free speech absolutist, but you will draw the line at the law because you are not completely brain dead. The thing is, Elon, is that when you defend something like this, it leads us to believe that you defend the concepts itself because you don't see them as ethically problematic.
Okay, we will obviously remove it.
okay.
But if it is not legal, the laws in this country are put forward by the citizens. We're a democracy. If those laws are put in place by the people, we adhere to those laws.
Okay, I
And we
agree.
adhere to the
Agree.
laws of others. If you go beyond the law, you're actually going beyond the will of the people.
Okay, agreed.
That was an interesting series of words. By the way, Elon, by that argument, how it raises so many business questions
With the law. But if you are doing something that promotes hate and violence and ultimately leads to killing, you don't feel you have any responsibility not to do that? When the people who are doing it admittedly are saying
there's articles all the time that lead to violence and killing. Don't they? Shouldn't they? Like you're applying a differential standard to.
But that would never.
What articles are you referring to, Elon?
That would never be in mainstream media. These types of images, that type of language, those things would never be. We'd never, when I was in mainstream media, we'd never promote things that would be anti-Semitic. We would never promote things that would.
Anti-Semitic either.
Did you not see those?
You said promote. If content is on the platform, that doesn't mean we promote it.
But here's the thing, though, Elon, is that you're publishing it publicly. Like, here's the thing. No one is ever going to, I mean, don't get me wrong, don't leak your DMs, people. But like, it's very different to have a racist group chat than to be publicly posting racism. I want to be clear. I'm not saying that group chat thing is good. You're still racist. But you're not throwing racism around in a public space, slapping everyone in the face with it. You are still getting to express your opinions to people that you care about. And if a government were to intervene on your private conversations, that would be fucked. My hope for you, if you are in that racist chat group, though, is that you will one day stop being racist and maybe bring an end to the racism of your group chat. That being said, the concept of thought crime goes out the window when it's a thing you're signaling publicly. At that point, people don't hate you for what you think. We hate you because you're annoying and a piece of shit. Everyone has bad thoughts. When we start to identify with our bad thoughts and start publicly throwing them everywhere, that's when it kind of becomes, maybe those bad thoughts aren't just random impulses or negative feelings. Maybe you really are just a piece of shit. You can't stop people from judging you for your behavior, is what I'm saying.
But that wouldn't be on a platform for mainstream media at all.
No, but you can think of that. That's because the mainstream media has like, whatever, 20 articles a day. We have 500 million posts today.
Okay,
500
understood.
million.
Does it bother you? How do you feel about that when you see it?
I obviously disagree with that. I think
it's not obvious, though, Elon. That's the thing that I'm saying. It's not obvious that you disagree with it because you're actively defending its existence. Like, that's what makes us sit here and go, Elon, do you see that? It makes it look like you believe that. Like, Elon, it's like you're saying things out loud and then acting like that stuff was in your head. People are going to notice.
it's not good at all. It's terrible.
But you don't want to get rid of it on the platform, or at least moderate it.
The rules, what you're suggesting is censorship that goes beyond the law. And what I'm saying is I guess have a disagreement because
Elon sounds like he doesn't understand why moderation exists. So here's why moderation exists. Moderation is not a fundamental thing that is enforced by the government. Moderation exists at the behest of corporations. You see, online communities are a type of business and way to engage customers with your product. And if chat rooms or groups or what we used to call or comment sections or message boards become aggressively racist, misogynistic, homophobic, then it begins to make certain parts of the customer base feel unwelcome, and they will drift away from using these options that engage them with the corporation's product. Once this starts to happen, it will start to damage a corporation's bottom line, at which point the corporation will attempt to moderate. This is something actually that all websites go through as they break into the mainstream. You see, once you get mainstream, you can't really offer tons of space to the grossest people on the planet because other people don't want to virtually hang out with those gross motherfuckers. So they begin moderation, and Reddit gets purged of all its Nazi pages. Reddit still has a lot of racists on it, though. I've been there. They just don't get to have their own pages anymore, or at least not pages with slurs in the name. You see, Elon, there's a reason that 4chan is not a billion-dollar company. It is because only porn sites pay to advertise on 4chan because 4chan has the most minor moderation on the fucking internet. And even they have some level of moderation because A, the law, and B, every once in a while, there's just too many Nazis. But 4chan isn't worth nearly as much money as Twitter because no reputable mainstream company wants to give 4chan money. Even though 4chan probably has a shitload of people on it. Because most corporations don't want to be associated with the shit that goes on 4chan. This is not hard stuff, Elon. It's just capitalism. This is literally the market regulating itself, and you're acting like it's oppression. Does that mean the market can oppress us? As a democratic socialist, I absolutely believe that the market is capable of oppressing us. Let's continue.
I do not believe in censorship that goes beyond the law, and you do. We have a difference of opinion in that regard.
I understand that, but these are your own rules on your own platform. These go against the rules on your platform. That's why I'm asking you. If you said, listen, we allow everything, but that's not what your content rules say. And that's why I'm asking you, why are they still there? Your own content policy. That's why I'm asking you that, not because...
Which part of our content policy says that we should delete these things?
Your content policy talks about hate speech.
Yes, we don't promote hate speech.
And so you don't consider that hate speech?
I guess you're not understanding what I'm saying. There's if there's you can find, like, you can sign up right now and do 100 things that are hateful, but if nobody reads it, it doesn't matter.
So here's the thing, though. So like, so functionally, if Elon is being honest here, then functionally that means he is technically censoring. He is just censoring in a way so that the person who makes the post doesn't know they're being censored. That is, provided it works the way he thinks it does. Except if it did work the way he thinks it does, they probably wouldn't have found them.
So you can think of X as being, it's much like the internet. It's not some tiny publication with like 20 articles a day. It's 500 million.
But everyone has the opportunity to read it, Elon.
Everyone has the opportunity to read the internet. Or you said it's suggesting we should shut down
the internet. It censors itself all the time, by the way. The internet. Not only that, but the internet's not really like a. The internet is one of those is a zeitgeist itself. It is made up of millions of different influences at all times. You can't honestly compare Twitter to the whole internet. That's kind of egocentric and insane. I understand what he's trying to say, but the fact of the matter is that what he's saying is true of like every social media site, because I mean, in a way, all social media sites is the internet for dummies.
On the internet?
No, but you don't own the internet. I'm asking you about you and your responsibility on your platform. And so I see how you feel now. You don't agree. We don't agree on this.
Yes, you want censorship and I don't.
No, I don't want.
That's a disingenuous way to frame Don's argument, actually. Asking for moderation is not the same thing as asking for censorship. Moderation is just like the police of the internet. Moderation is the opposite of like a Wild West policy. Listen, I've had dick moderators be total Karens at me because I used the wrong way. I expressed a negative opinion about a movie using language that was considered too harsh. And just so you know, what I said was the second half of Iron Man 3 is trash. And apparently that upset some people. Not that I didn't like it, but that I used the word trash.
I want censorship at
Yes,
all.
you do.
No, I want responsibility. I think
You desperately want censorship.
No, if I want a censorship.
You want censorship so bad you can taste it.
No, that's not true.
This is a very bad faith interpretation of what Don Lemon is trying to say to Elon.
Not true. I think that there's right and wrong. And I think that when you have a platform that's as big as yours and as powerful as yours and as influential as yours, and you are a person of consequence to the world with what you do, that there is a certain responsibility that goes along with what you have on your platform and what you put out to the world. And I think that's important. You don't see that responsibility.
I think we have a responsibility to adhere to the law, and if people want the law changed, they should talk to their elected representative and get the law changed, and then we will adhere to the law.
Okay.
But if you want us to go beyond the law, that is us deciding to be censors. And I'm against censorship. I'm in favor of freedom of speech.
Yeah.
And freedom of speech only is relevant when people you don't like say things you don't like. Otherwise, it has no meaning.
But I do think that there should be guardrails.
So, do you know what the actual value of freedom of speech is? Because, like, what he's saying is a fair rhetorical argument, but the actual value of freedom of speech is to not go to prison for talking shit about the government. That's why we have freedom of speech, just so everyone knows. That is the purpose of freedom of speech, is our ability to criticize things and then not go to jail for criticizing things. In most cases, specifically the government. This is actually one of the things that makes America special, is that we culturally take this for granted, that we can talk shit about the government. Because in the end, people capable of oppressing us are really the only people really worth talking shit about. Like, talking shit about people who aren't oppressing us, it's kind of just being rude, you know? And I mean, like, you can be rude on the internet if you want, if that's what gets you hard, I guess. But, like, you can't ask us not to think you're racist when you defend racist commentary. There's people in this country who hate the ACLU. And I understand why. But you know what? ACLU also does a lot of good for us. So I'm talking about the ACLU defending Nazis' ability to have parades. But let's move along. The ACLU does good things too.
And I believe in free speech as much as you. I would fight. I don't disagree. I don't agree with a lot of what you put out on social media, but I will fight for your right to be able to say it.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, so listen, let's talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. All right, that's been a target of yours lately on X. There was a repost of Ben Shapiro that you claim that DEI is killing people. Specifically, you point to medicine. You claim that DEI programs are putting people at risk. Do you really believe this to be true? And what evidence do you have to support it?
What I was referring to there was that if we lower the standards for doctors, such so that they, if the test for a doctor is lowered, then the probability of them making a mistake and killing someone is obviously going to be higher.
Wait, say that again. I'm not sure I understand what you said. I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Yes, if the standards for passing medical exams and becoming a doctor, or especially something like a surgeon, if the standards are lowered, then the probability that the surgeon will make a mistake is higher. They're making mistakes in their exam. They may make mistakes with people, and that may result in people dying.
What evidence do you have, though, that they're lowering the standards? There's no evidence.
Like, that is the thing. Like, DEI does not lower standards. That's not a thing. The honest answer is the only thing that can really lower standards in a workforce is a sudden vacuum of people to fill the jobs.
Evidence of that?
I believe there is.
There's no evidence of that, Elon. What is the evidence?
I believe they have literally lowered the standards at Duke University, and that is what the article was referring to.
There's no evidence.
Saying they have not lowered the standards?
There's no evidence about lowering standards, and I think that there is.
I believe that is a false statement you're making.
Okay, well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta Google some of this. There is currently, well, doesn't look like there's any. Well, turns out there's no evidence. Just things that people are saying about DEI because people don't understand DEI. DEI is not about lowering standards. It's about making your workplace more inviting to minorities to work there. If you did even a few minutes of research, you would know this.
I think
the interesting thing is, when this is posted on the X platform, there will be a whole bunch of things that rebut what you said and what I said.
Right.
And so people can then make their own decision based on the replies and the rebuttals and the community notes.
The problem with the marketplace of ideas concept is that we have actual evidence that it doesn't work. Bad ideas sometimes never die. We have flat earthers. Flat earthers are back, guys. That's a clear sign that sometimes you can spread an idea too stupid.
I think that's fair, but I do think that on this particular topic, I do think that you and Ben Shapiro.
Ideas are bulletproof. Did you learn nothing from V for Vendetta? You can't just kill ideas. If you don't ridicule every flat earther, spread like a disease.
Are reaching in about this, because there was what Ben posted said that he gave instances of people who were deliberately harming people. Nowhere in the thread does Ben suggest at all, I should say, that anyone is being killed as a result of DEI. That's purely speculative. There's research on DEI and medicine, and there's no evidence that standards are being lowered, that DEI is affecting medicine. Actually, only 5% of doctors are black, and a small percent.
Yeah, I think you'll find that when this is posted to the X platform, that people will reply to it with evidence.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see.
Okay. So, but that's my whole thing about moderation. Maybe you're wrong, but you'll put it out there. You don't know if it's right. Do you think that you have a responsibility to make sure something is right before you, the person who owns it, Elon Musk, who's a huge figure in the world, that you should know that it's true, that there are people at X who can get research for you before you put something out there like that? That's not necessarily true, even in other examples.
Elon, can you get it now?
If I say something that is inaccurate, I'm immediately corrected on the platform. That's the advantage of a real-time system like X. So there will be immediately in the replies people correcting me. There will be a community note that will correct me, which is attached to the actual post itself.
Do you think as many people read
Yes.
You think as many people read that as it reads your tweet?
Yes, in fact, and if there's a community...
The next thing I would want to ask him, if I was Don Lemon at this point, would be, how many statements have you publicly retracted?
Community note that happens later that where somebody didn't see, but they replied to that or interacted with that post, we will notify them that there is now a community note correcting that post.
Mm-hmm. Just so you...
Whereas if you consider the conventional media, that doesn't happen. Conventional media makes false statements all the time and nobody ever hears the correction.
That's only half true. The media does actually make corrections literally all the time. And the mainstream media, when it gets things wrong, can and will be sued. That's what just happened to fucking Fox. So what Elon Musk is saying here is not actually accurate. There actually are systems that check and balance the media itself. It doesn't mean the media hasn't made a lot of money off of misleading us via talking head programs like the ones that Don Lemon does, and the ones that the Elon Musk's friends do, like Ben Shapiro or Tucker Carlson. Yeah, he just doesn't get it.
When I was in conventional media, I can only speak for myself. If I got something wrong, if someone got something wrong on the platform that I was on, it was corrected, and we made sure that it was corrected. Now, I can't speak for anyone else.
I don't think that's a universal situation.
Okay, so I just want the research. So when you talk,
what does that mean, Elon? Are you just trying to be dismissive?
Do you believe that people are dying because medical standards, DEI is causing medical standards to be lowered? Do you actually believe people are dying because of that?
I believe that if we lower the standards for what it takes to become a doctor.
You're saying if we lower the standards,
yes.
But do you believe people are dying because the standards are being lowered?
I don't think that is yet an issue, but it could become an issue.
Wanton racist speculation.
Okay. But the actual evidence in history shows the exact opposite. If you look at how minorities were treated by the medical system, most doctors now are white. And there are lots of mistakes in medicine. So you're saying that white doctors have bad medical care? I'm trying to understand your logic here when it comes to DEI, because there's no actual evidence of what you're saying.
No, I said so.
So part of the problem is the conservatives sort of like take a whole bunch of if conservatives like to take like any concept that like vaguely sounds similar and relates to minorities, and they like to take all these concepts and they like to put it in a little blender and just swirl it all up. So like to them, concepts like affirmative action and DEI are suddenly like the same thing, even though they're different types of programs. Or it's, oh, they got quotas, even though that's not it's not actually how it works. Like quotas actually just come from trying to get grant money for things. It's fucking stupid. That's what I'm saying. It's like people now use woke and like politically correct interchangeably, even though like they are not the same thing. Like political correctness is more about like positive representation, and wokeness is just an understanding of uh systemic oppression. Like this, the awareness of systemic oppression. It's maddening what conservatives will do to language.
If the standards, like let's say, I think that particular thing was referring to surgeons. Let's say a surgeon is asked to
I don't know if Scrubs is a really good point of view, but from what we understand, surgeons are the dumbest of all the doctors, if Scrubs is to be believed.
Surgeon in training is asked to do a series of operations under the supervision of a senior surgeon, and they get a bunch of those operations wrong. If that happens, and yet they are still approved to be a surgeon, the probability that someone will die, I think, at some point is high.
Okay, I understand that, but that's a hypothetical. That doesn't mean it's happening.
I didn't say it's happening.
You didn't say it was happening.
I said it will. I said if we lower standards, people will die.
Elon Musk is just straight up dumb. He is literally imagining a nightmare scenario that's just not happening.
But why respond to something or put something out there that has not happened? Because I could say,
Because I don't want it to happen. I think we don't want to lower standards.
Okay, if you look at the history of the medical industry, especially when it comes to Black Americans, it shows the exact opposite. If you look at the Tuskegee experiment and on, only 5% of doctors in America are Black. All of them are white. So are you saying that if the majority of doctors are white, are you saying that and there are still these inequities, right? And there's still mistakes. Are you blaming DEI for that?
No, I'm very basically saying that if we lower standards for what it
DEI is not about lowering standards. That's not what it's about.
Takes to become a board-certified surgeon, or an oncologist or something where the kind of disease we're talking about, if you make a mistake, causes someone to die, then more people will die than if we don't lower the standards.
So are you saying we should end malpractice insurance? That would probably have serious ramifications. But if you wanted to get rid of doctors who kill people, it would be pretty effective.
Therefore, we should not lower the standards.
But why do you think they're lowering the standards for minority doctors or women doctors, or?
That's what that's what that article suggested. Yes, at Duke University.
Okay. The evidence that I have.
There is no evidence.
Shows that that's not true.
Okay.
So listen, after the door blew off, this.
No evidence that it's happening. Don Lemon says there's evidence that it's not happening. And the official statement from the school is that it is not happening.
Mid-flight, Miss Alaskan Airlines flight, do you remember that? You responded to a post claiming that the average HBCU grad was less intelligent than the average airline pilot, and stated that it will take an airplane crashing and killing hundreds of people for them to change this crazy policy of DIE. I don't know if did you misspell it on purpose, which it should be DEI. Do you believe that women and minority pilots are inherently...
That's fucking wild, Elon. Do you really believe that? Holy shit.
less intelligent and less skilled than white male pilots?
No, I'm just saying that we should not lower the standards for them.
Okay. But there's no evidence that standards are being lowered when it comes to the airline industry.
You've repeatedly said that there's no evidence that standards are being lowered, and watch the replies showing all the evidence that it is.
Replies, though, on social media or on Twitter are not necessarily fact and evidence.
No,
that's people's opinion.
They will cite all the replies in the replies to this.
I've looked into some of this, and there's no evidence from it. It's mostly just the right blowing like statements from airline officials, like incredibly out of proportion, and then waving wildly at Boeing malfunctions for some reason, even though it's not pilot related.
So you will see how often the information is cited, showing that indeed there are significant cases where standards are lowered.
And I do hope that happens. I do hope that happens, and I look forward to it. And as you said, if you're wrong, then you're wrong, and if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong.
Yes.
Okay. So and I'm glad we're having this conversation, debating. This is what we should be doing, debating the issue. So if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, and then they'll be proven in the thing, and you as well. But I just want to tell you that pilot that you talked about, in fact, was a woman pilot, landed the plane safely despite the major malfunction with the equipment. Boeing has taken responsibility for that incident, saying that
yeah, because the pilot has nothing to do with a piece of the plane fucking coming off.
It was caused by a faulty door panel. So I'm not sure what that had to do with lowering the standards for pilots when it was a faulty.
No, it's not lowering standards for pilots. It's the incentive structure. I believe at Boeing changed to include DEI as a fundamental executive incentive. But in my view, it should be purely about.
How does he not know what DEI is? Like, he's doing a really shit job at explaining it. The way he's talking about it makes it sound like he doesn't really know how it works. Like, you'd think someone in his position would have at least had some exposure to it.
Passenger safety.
Okay, but do you understand how by saying just that standards are being lowered, that you're implying that they're being lowered because people are less skilled and less intelligent, and you're talking about people of color and or women?
Look, I'm saying we should not lower standards.
But you don't.
That's it.
But by saying the standards are being lowered specifically for DEI, that's what you're saying. There have been situations where the standards have been lowered in the cases of the military, but it wasn't lowered for DEI. It was lowered because most Americans can't fucking pass a physical exam or a mental exam / drug test.
I think everyone can agree that you shouldn't lower standards.
Right.
But you're implying that they're lowering standards because of people of color or women, because someone is not a white male. You're saying that they're less skilled and less intelligent. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying that they are.
Then why would they be lowering the standards?
I don't know. Why are they lowering the standards?
Just so you know, 5% of pilots are female, 4% are black. So you're talking about this widespread takeover of minorities and women when that's not actually true.
I'm not saying there's a widespread takeover.
Well, you're saying that the standards are being lowered because of certain people.
The standards are being lowered specifically for this. You would see massive jumps. If that were a thing that was happening, there would be massive jumps.
And you don't believe in DEI, right? Do you not believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion?
I think we should be treat people according to their skills and their integrity, and that's it.
Do you know that studies show?
Studies show.
Yeah, well, we can look them up.
Elon has too much ego to ever listen to a study. If a study invalidates his beliefs, he will not pay attention to it.
So your reaction to studies show, and I understand, right? Because I always like to point to an exact study, right?
Sure.
Something that is factual. It's the same thing when you talk about, well, let's see what the replies are on Twitter or on X.
Yeah, so
I feel the same way about that. But this is what studies have shown, and people will reply and they'll say that companies with more diversity in their leadership teams have reported higher innovation rates than those with lower diversity or low diversity, and they're better companies and they make more money. This whole idea about DEI, if you go woke or whatever, you go broke, that's not necessarily true. People with diverse leadership teams and diverse workers make more money and more innovative.
Like I said, my view is that the only basis for promoting somebody should be their skills, talents, and their integrity, and that's it.
Literal NPC behavior, Elon. Literal NPC behavior. You are 100% ego machine.
I want to ask you about, there's a federal government EEOC. They are also currently involved in a lawsuit against Tesla that alleges that there's a history of widespread racial harassment against black Tesla employees, as well as a pattern of retaliation for speaking out. What do you say to that?
I don't believe that is true. I think we've got a very good, like if you walk around the Tesla.
Hold on. You don't think that it's true there's a lawsuit, or you don't think there's it's true that there's a problem.
Fremont plant. I think it's a very good atmosphere. In fact, I practically lived there for 3 years trying to make the
That does not mean it's good. I could not think of something that would demotivate me more than my boss constantly living there.
production work.
Were you aware, if you lived there, were you aware of such behavior?
I never saw it.
Elon, do you even pay attention to other people?
So you're saying that this is not true, it's not happening.
Well, I mean, there's over 20,000 people. So you say, like, if there's over 20,000 people in one building, well, is everyone going to behave perfectly? No. Did I see any situations that I thought were improper? I did not.
Let's talk about trans rights and the woke mind virus, because you've talked about that a lot. You're right about that a lot on the thing. You have been deeply...
Damn, Don, you're really going after him. I don't know shit about Don Lemon. There's a part of me that wants to like Don Lemon for this interview, but like honestly, I won't commit to that. Especially since he's definitely at least a super centrist, so I know I'm going to disagree with him on some things.
Outspoken about the issue of trans rights. You posted trans rights. You posted that pronouns in bio mean the woke mind virus ate your brain. Do you know what the term woke actually means?
It's come to mean a lot of things.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's going to be a non-answer. Which, if this is really what Elon thinks, then what he should say is what it means to him when he says it.
But what originally it was meant to mean. It's just being aware of inequities in society and being aware of facts and history.
Yeah, I think it's come to be...
Well put, Don. Well put.
I think being aware of inequities in society is fine, of course. But
aren't you anti-union?
trying to blame everything on trying to make everything a race issue is, I think, divisive and corrosive to society.
Even as it relates to trans issues, which is what I'm...
Yeah, race or...
Good catch, Don. Good catch.
Gender or whatever.
You think that society blames everything on racism now?
It blames a lot of things on it, and yeah.
You think that's unfair?
Yeah.
Why?
I think we should not make this a constant subject. I think we need to move on. I think we just treat people like people.
You don't agree that this country was founded on racism and founded on slavery and in many ways inequities?
Yes, let's see what Mr. South Africa has to say about this.
That still continue on to this day?
I think every country at that time, and I think even today, was extremely racist. Every country.
Wait, so the country is extremely racist?
And obviously, slavery was present in about half of this country. And
technically, at various different points, it was in all the country. Well, that's not fair. Some states weren't states until after slavery. And some states were founded specifically to be anti-slavery states. But some people like George Washington got around some loopholes, is what I'm saying. And indentured servants. I don't think indentured servants were ever outlawed. I mean, they probably were eventually, but I don't know when that happened.
No, but was not present in the North. There was racism for sure, but I think we want to.
Yeah, no, still editing this bitch. But I did do some more fact checking here, and Elon is actually wrong about the North. Slavery was a dominant feature of the antebellum South, but it was also pervasive in the pre-Civil War North. The New England states of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island all have a history of slavery. So, nice attempt. Yeah, no, he didn't know shit about the history of slavery. Also, Pennsylvania. And I'm going to double check this one. And according to the 1860 census, Delaware, Missouri, Maryland, Kentucky also had slaves. There were also about 50 slaves in other non-slave states, thanks to the Dred Scott decision. So, yeah, North is not innocent.
Look to the future rather than the past. And instead of engaging in constant rehashing of the past, because in fact, if you look at history, if you study history broadly, everyone was a slave. Everyone.
Yes. Well, not everyone was a slave.
No,
but
everyone was a slave.
Okay.
I mean, technically, not everyone was a slave because, you know, some people took the slaves. Although, to be fair, there were like the Celtic people where, you know, slavery wasn't based on your skin color. And they would just, I'm sorry, not Celtic. I meant to say Scandinavian. The Celts also had slaves. I wasn't giving my people a pass there. Although they mostly enslaved Christians. Backfired in a big way with the whole St. Patrick thing.
Okay, but
we are all descended from slaves.
yeah,
Well, all of us.
yeah.
It's just a question of when. Was it more recent or less recent? That's it.
Right.
But like the cultural ramifications for more recent are gonna be more like prescient, man.
So but what future do we want? Is this something we want to make part of our constant dialogue forever, or do we want to say, like, let's just move on and treat?
Well, it's part of the dialogue forever for a couple of different reasons. One of those is how much we could probably have moved on from it if there had not been so much resistance to Black integration through the 20th century. My God. You see, to move on from it, there has to be integration, which is typically, you know, why immigrants, we put a big deal on them sort of joining with America. But like literally anytime Black people made a cultural contribution to America that should have like pulled them into the mainstream and got them accepted, it never, like, people resisted it every time. Yeah. So that's probably part of it. And also because a bunch of fucktwits called the Daughters of the Confederacy created an entire bunch of bullshit propaganda to justify the war and how their pappies weren't traitors or whatever. Holy shit, those people have basically forced us to continue to talk about this fucking shit for like over 100 years now. That's why, Elon, those are the reasons why we can't get away from it. And the inequity.
Treat everyone, according to just who they are as an individual.
I agree with you with that. That's the ideal. But what the evidence shows is that that's not what's actually in practice.
Exactly. That's not we still have tons of discrimination and racism against both women and people of color. It happens all the time. Not to mention to the various queer communities. I mean, we have still been, side note, we have still been sidetracked from trans issues by racism here.
I think we're doing better than anywhere else.
That's true. I agree with that.
Success is a relative term, Elon.
But that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean a lot to a whole lot of people who aren't able to take advantage of the opportunities that you were able to take advantage of, simply because the color of your skin.
What advantages did my color of my skin give me?
Well, there's an ease that you have in society that
no one burned down your pappy's mine to steal it from him, which was a common occurrence here in the States, where white people would see Black people making money and then just go over and burn it down. And you got to inherit generational wealth where that didn't happen.
That many people of color don't. You were able to come to this country voluntarily. There are many people who are not able to come to the country voluntarily. There are people who...
Ooh, good point, Don. He is an immigrant.
Came here
It was
as
very difficult
slaves,
for me to come here.
and there is a legacy of slavery that still continues on. There's a legacy of racism that still continues on in this country. That's undeniable.
Well, if we keep talking about it nonstop, it will never go away.
No, Elon. The problem is okay. So the problem is that for slavery for us to move on from these points, Elon, then the people who are hurt need to feel heard, and then also we need to address some of the inequities. I mean, for fuck's sake, Elon, black people created rock and roll, and we're still racist to them. Like, we let most other ethnicities in just for their food. And by in, I mean to the cultural zeitgeist and melting pot where we all become one and Americans. Black people are Americans. That's not what I'm implying.
If we keep making that the central thing, it will never go away.
No one's saying it's the central thing. Oh my God. You're so fucking white, Elon.
Well, why do you believe that?
I think I'm just making a simple statement of fact.
That's not how logic works, Elon. You have to explain your reasoning when you're not going off of something. Oh my God, why do people think that you are smart?
So I think we want to get away from making everything a race or a gender or whatever issue, and just treat people like individuals.
No, Elon, why are you ignoring the objective nature of there being problems that these groups of people face? It's like your brain is stuck in dumbass mode on these key specific things.
Do you have any desire to understand what many people of color and even trans people, how they feel about this country and how they're treated in this country? If they say and they believe that they are treated a certain way in this country, why don't you believe them?
You cannot have a situation where someone is a self-described victim, and they just get to be that because that's how they feel.
I think that does happen in some cases, but not all.
But that's a bad faith interpretation to put onto all women and all black people and all. Oh my God, that's bad faith, Elon. You can't say because okay. So like, here's the thing. What Elon is referring to is that he is suggesting that minorities are inherently Eric Cartmans, because Eric Cartman is a satirical figure of all the worst behaviors. And Eric Cartman's defining trait is that he abuses the empathy of society for his own selfish gain by pretending to be oppressed and putting lots of things on himself as a victim. And it's a thing he does all the time. But you have to understand, you can't go through life thinking that all trans people and all black people are Eric fucking Cartman. Does the world have entitled narcissistic people who are going to try and abuse whatever they can to get by? Absolutely. I had someone weaponize therapy language on me just the other day. But you can't look at black people and women and trans people and any other group saying they're having problems in society and then just immediately go, oh no, they're probably just complaining to complain because they like to feel seen. Yeah, everyone likes to feel seen, Elon. I assume that's why you tweet all the goddamn time.
In all cases. And I think that not understanding the history of the country, I think, is a real shame. Look, I've had incredible opportunity.
You clearly don't, Elon. You do not understand the history of America. You bitch.
And other countries.
I've had incredible opportunity.
Elon, I don't think you would benefit in this conversation from us knowing more about South Africa.
As a person of color,
right?
But I've also been
very well.
But I've also been discriminated against, and I know that I have, and I know that that's real. And for someone to say that that isn't happening, I should just move forward and not think about that and ignore the past, is insulting.
I'm not saying it. Don, you keep putting words in my mouth. I'm not saying it's
I didn't say that.
Those are the implications of your words, Elon. If we follow the messaging of your words to their logical conclusion, this is where it brings us. Do you not understand the words coming out of your own damn mouth? Holy shit.
You said
I'm saying that we want to, we as a country should move beyond the questions of race and gender, and we should treat people like individuals.
So you want to are you saying you want to abolish race and gender? Because we can start talking about that.
And base our opinions on them, on the, you know, their character and their skills.
I don't think that anyone will disagree with that.
Exactly.
Because we don't. No one disagrees with that. That's not a thing that you're describing. See, the conservatives have created so many straw man arguments that, like, they live in a different world.
All I'm saying is that that's not happening and is not equal for everyone. That those opportunities don't happen for everyone. And I am a living example that they don't. I know that they don't because I live it.
You've been incredibly successful.
I have been,
and
in spite of it all. But
Elon, sometimes people have setbacks and obstacles. Oh my God, Elon, what is wrong with you?
But I know what I know. I've experienced what I've experienced. You haven't done that. And
he didn't let it stop him, Elon. That doesn't mean it didn't happen.
I cannot, I don't know what it's like to be from South Africa. I don't know what it's like to be a white man. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I don't know what it's like to be a Latino person. I don't know that. So I wouldn't speak for them and just say, you need to move on. That's not for me to say. I believe that it would be great if the country could live up to that ideal. You think that everyone has the same opportunities in America, regardless of their background and ethnicity. Do you agree?
No, I don't think everyone has the same opportunities.
Okay. So
why are you acting like it, Elon?
When you talk about, let's talk about trans rights. When you decided to
finally
to talk about the trans rights movement, you said that it was a woke mind virus. Why do you believe the trans rights movement is a woke mind virus? What do you mean by woke mind virus?
Woke mind virus is when you stop caring about people's skills and their integrity, and you start focusing instead on gender and race and other things that are different from that. I think the woke mind virus is fundamentally racist, fundamentally sexist, and fundamentally evil.
Okay.
And we've got a little bit more time, so you choose your question.
Okay, okay, thank you for that. But I would appreciate you.
Okay, so everything Elon Musk just said is fucking nonsense. He doesn't know what woke is. He doesn't understand trans rights or anything. And like, I'm not an expert on any of these things, but I know more than Elon Musk on all of these topics. And like, Elon Musk needs to get out of his fucking bubble.
Answering these, I think it's important that we're doing this. I think it's important to the world to hear this, especially what's going on in our country. The reason I ask you, listen, there are a whole lot of things that people maybe have questions about when it comes to transgender people. Even people who are part of the LGBTQ plus community have questions about that. But if you are a free speech absolutist, right? And that is part of the First Amendment. Also, the freedom of expression falls under that First Amendment as well. So why can't people choose to identify with the gender that they feel comfortable with, or with use a pronoun? Isn't that part of freedom of expression?
I guess no. They can ask others to do whatever they feel. They can ask others to do anything. It's a different question whether they mandate that others do that.
There is no mandate. What you're experiencing is people being annoyed at you for being a dick.
Okay. Let's talk more about free speech and for advertisers, right? Because all this controversy, I believe, as you know, has made X less appealing to advertisers. About half of them have left the platform.
Did not pre-watch, except for the first 2 minutes.
You call advertisers that left X.com. You said they were oppressors. You've even gone as far as saying it publicly that they can go F themselves or go fuck themselves.
Like, Elon, you sound like a fucking child, bro. A child. That's like an angry child's response.
If they're going to force censorship on the company before advertising, then
It's not censorship. How do you not? Elon Musk has no ethical, moral core, and he cannot perceive what other people perceive.
Obviously, I find that unacceptable.
You find it unacceptable. Why is that not a form of
standard practice? I am standard practice. It is standard practice for companies not to want to be associated with certain behaviors. Honestly, it's not always good that that's a thing, but it is standard practice. That kept black characters out of comic books for like 2 decades. Over 2 decades. Was the fear that Southerners wouldn't buy comic books with black people in them. So all these North and West Coast comic book companies just never put black people in comic books because they wanted to sell them in the South. Corporations have 2 things: their own ethics and their awareness of the popular ethic. Corporations and companies and businesses always will and always have taken these things into consideration when marketing their products. This is part of how the market works. Elon Musk is acting like he's being oppressed by function of the market.
of free speech? They are free to advertise where they want. They're not beholden to, they're not obligated to advertise
They're not
on
obligated.
X.com.
Right.
So how is that not free speech?
Yeah, Elon. How is that not free speech?
That's whereas the other platforms will censor on behalf of advertisers, the X platform will not.
Okay. So, but you think it's, you don't think it's okay for them not to advertise with or have their content or their advertisement next to something that is anti-Semitic or
That is a different question.
It's not actually. It's not.
There's you can absolutely choose where next to which content do you want your advertising to appear. Absolutely, of course, and we have, I think, very good ad placement controls in this regard.
Yeah. So you said if they
Corporations do not agree.
kill the company, it's them. But doesn't the buck stop with you? I mean, you're
John,
He does not want to take responsibility for anything. Elon Musk is the anti-Spider-Man.
I have to say, choose your question carefully. There's 5 minutes left.
Which is the closest thing to being Tony Stark he'll ever be.
okay, but
A white man who doesn't take responsibility for shit. That's as close to Tony Stark as he'll ever be.
so
Is this the question you want to ask?
the same question is you said that they are killing the company, but you're the head of the company. The buck doesn't stop with you?
I acquired X in order to preserve freedom of speech in America, the First Amendment. And I'm going to stick to that. And if
But we have 4chan. We didn't need you, Elon. Anyone who really wants to say some fucked up shit can just go on 4chan.
that means making less money, so be it.
I hope you're ready to be making 4chan money.
So I have to be, listen, I'm just being honest, right? I'm not trying to, like, get you or anything. I was just surprised that you would blame other people for killing the company. I mean, when you say the buck stops with the President of the United States, regardless of what happens, right? So, why would that question upset you? You seem upset by it, are you?
I think you.
And I'm not trying to upset you.
Well, you are upsetting me because the way you're phrasing the questions, I think, is not cogent.
Elon, I hate to tell you this, man, but like, you don't seem like you even know how to speak English. Wait, do you not know? Is Dutch your normal language?
It's not what?
Not cogent.
Cogent.
Yes.
Go ahead.
If given a choice where an advertiser is saying like you have to censor all this content on the platform, irrespective of where their advertising appears, then our answer will be like, look, you can choose where you want your advertising, what you want your advertising to appear next to, but you can't insist on censorship of the entire platform. And if you insist on censorship of the entire platform, even where your advertising doesn't appear, then obviously we will not want them as an advertiser.
So what would you say to advertisers who have left the platform or who are considering coming back or not coming back? What would you like to say to them?
Well, first of all, almost all of our advertisers are coming back to the platform. So it's a very short list of advertisers who are not coming back to the platform. And our advertising revenue is rising rapidly. And our subscription revenue is rising rapidly. And I feel very optimistic about the future of the X platform.
Okay. Listen, honestly, I'm not meaning to offend you. You're an intense person. Where does that intensity come from?
I was born that way. And I had a tough childhood.
You did?
So, yeah.
How so?
Right, Walter Isaacson goes into it in the book, and we only have a couple minutes left, so
All right.
too long
Read my book.
to describe. So the one or two questions I can do, and then we'll have to call it.
Okay. Again, I don't mean to upset you. Why are you just...
No, I have a whole room full of people waiting to meet with me,
Okay.
so we're just going over time.
Okay. All right. I understand that. So when you talk about, you said you were born that way. Is that, did you think that the way that you see the world has to do with your relationship with anyone, perhaps your father or someone in your family?
I think we're all affected by the people we grow up with. My aspiration is to do whatever it takes to extend consciousness into the future. That's my goal, to make life multiplanetary as part of extending consciousness into the future.
Have the past few years, and considering everything that's gone on, has it been difficult for you and your family life?
It's been okay.
So then, how do you see your legacy, Elon? How do you see how people see you in the...
First of all, I say that if I died knowing that I did what was right, or did my best to do what was right, and even if in the history books they said I did wrong, I would still feel okay about that. I care about the reality of goodness, not the perception of it.
But actually, Elon, that's the problem, is that you don't care about the reality of goodness. Because by saying that everything has a both sides argument, what you're saying is, I don't need a code of ethics. That's the reality.
I think we should view civilization as tenuous, as fragile. If you do study history broadly, you'll see that there's a rise and fall to civilizations. They don't always go up. So we should do everything we possibly can to preserve and extend civilization as we know it.
Yeah.
And improve it. To become more enlightened over time. And
yet flat earthers are back. What the fuck happened there?
therefore want to address civilizational risks. We want to make sure that we don't have, for example, demographic collapse, which is the case in a lot of countries, just very low birth rate. We want to obviously avoid World War III, anything that is a civilizational risk. That's what I care about, civilizational risks. How do we extend consciousness into the future such that we are able to better understand the nature of reality? Yeah. That's what I care about. That's my motivation.
I know you have to go. If you'll just give me, I'll do a rapid fire thing here. Is there anything that you would change about anything that you've done in your life?
I'm going to guess no, because people with his level of narcissism or egotism cannot acknowledge their mistakes. But hey, maybe he'll prove me wrong. He sort of came out about being depressed.
Life in the past or recently?
I've made many mistakes over the years. If I had a time machine, I'd go back and fix them, but I don't have a time machine.
Thank you.
Okay, actually, better answer than I thought, although he still didn't specify any specific thing individually, which means he doesn't really either think about those things or he controls the information about those things intentionally.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
So that's it. And as Elon would say, you be the judge. Let me tell you something about this show. The conversation doesn't end just because the camera stops. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching The Don Lemon Show. Click on the image in the top right to subscribe to my channel. And
Wow. Okay. So, yeah, now I understand some of the reactions people have had to this thing. My big takeaway from this is that Elon Musk would be bad at improv. And the reason that Elon Musk would be bad at improv is that he uses a lot of words without saying a lot. Throughout the entire interview, Elon essentially gave a long-ending series of non-answers to almost everything, refusing to be tied down or to take really hard stands on things, and taking forever to admit that he has depression, which, like I said, since he admitted it, I'm not going to judge him for trying to hide it. But it's clear that he's overthought it and doesn't actually know how to say it. Also, from the interview, it feels like Elon Musk doesn't actually know how to talk to other human beings or hold cogent or have cogent conversations at all. Yeah. Don Lemon, I don't know a lot about you, but you did a good job here. You called him on a lot of his shit. And like, this is the other thing, is that, like, I now don't believe that Elon has any true ethical core. Like, from watching this interview, like, what can you say? He'll be like, truth. And then you'll be like, well, okay, so why don't you silence liars? And then he'll be like, freedom of speech. And then it's just an endless circle of that. He bad faith interprets anything from the left. He basically is just racist when it comes to DEI, a thing he doesn't understand or doesn't really know about somehow. Like, you'd think he would have been invited to a seminar somewhere at some point. Like, how right-wing are the other rich people he hangs out with? Apparently rich and apparently right-wing enough that Donald Trump's just like, hey, I'm stopping by for breakfast. Wow. Just wow. And yeah. So I learned a lot about Elon, just not from anything he said. More from how desperately he tried to not say anything at all. Well, that was long. If you stayed this long, thank you. I really appreciate whatever long bike ride or whatever I was filling up for you. It's always nice to have someone to listen to or watch in the background while you crush those deeply disturbing thoughts you're having that haunt you. But instead, you can be listening to my calm, melodic voice instead. Yeah, Elon Musk, possibly not as smart as anyone thought he was. Thank you for listening / watching. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Maybe leave a comment, maybe share it. Or, also, if you're taking this in off your local podcast distributor like Spotify, you can also follow me there. If you would like to contact the program, you can email me at rubenuncut@gmail.com. Thank you. Have a wonderful whatever, wherever, however you are.